See, I didn't quit because I didn't like my job. I loved my job. I cried when I handed in my resignation. I was heartbroken.
क्लाउड किचन होती क्या है?
Cloud Kitchen is basically
तो शिव, आप पीएचडी हमेशा से क्लाउड किचन मॉडल में ही चाहते थे या इट वाज जस्ट एन इनिशियल प्लान?
I would want to sound smart and say that this was the initial plan, but I'll be lying. When I left Oberoi, I was all over eager and naive, and I'm like, I'm going to open an outlet like this and that and this and that and this and that, and
पीएचडी वाज अ क्लाउड किचन बेकरी, राइट? ऐसे में मार्केटिंग कैसे की जाती है अपनी ब्रांड की?
I can't stress this enough. Education cost बहुत high है. मैं मालपुए खा के बड़ी हुई हूँ, काजू कत्ती खा के बड़े हुए हम लोग. हमको क्या पता है ऑन्थ्रो में क्या है, मूसली क्या है. सो बहुत मेहनत लगती है, बहुत मेहनत लगती है. यू हैव टू बी कंसिस्टेंट एंड इट इज़ नॉट ईजी. जस्ट बिकॉज आपके मम्मी पापा ने बोल दिया कि आप बहुत अच्छा ब्राउनी बनाते हो, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है आप अपना F&B बिजनेस खोलो. हायर अ स्मॉल टीम बट हायर अ शार्प. If you don't have that team, don't take a second to chuck them out. If somebody eats my cake, any of my cakes, they can't replicate it.
ऐसा कौन सा डेजर्ट था जो सबसे ज्यादा डिफिकल्ट था आपके लिए क्रैक करना?
अगर आप सोच रहे हैं कि बेकरी का बिजनेस सिर्फ स्टोर खोलने से ही ग्रो हो सकता है, तो आज का एपिसोड आपको एक नया मॉडल दिखाएगा, क्लाउड किचन का मॉडल, जहां क्वालिटी और कंसिस्टेंसी दोनों फ्रंट सीट पे होते हैं. ये है प्रोजेक्ट स्वीट डिश की कहानी, एक आर्टिसनल क्लाउड किचन बेकरी जो गुड़गांव के एक कॉम्पैक्ट किचन से शुरू हुआ और आज लॉयल कस्टमर्स के दिल और इनबॉक्स दोनों में जगह बना चुका है. और इस जर्नी के पीछे है शेफ देविका कुमारी, जिन्होंने अपने पैशन को एक फुल टाइम बिजनेस में बदला विदाउट ओपनिंग अ सिंगल स्टोर फ्रंट. इस एपिसोड में हम बात करेंगे कैसे शेफ देविका ने ब्रेड्स, केक्स और पेस्ट्रीज के थ्रू एक स्केलेबल डिलीवरी फर्स्ट ब्रांड बनाया, जहां हर प्रोडक्ट हैंड क्राफ्टेड है और हर बैच quality tested. From vegan options to subscription models, she's cracked the code for running a successful digital first bakery. अगर आप एक होम बेकर हैं जो क्लाउड किचन मॉडल एक्सप्लोर करना चाहते हैं या आपको इंटरेस्ट है आर्टिसनल बेकिंग को स्केल करने में, दिस एपिसोड इज फुल ऑफ इनसाइट्स, स्ट्रैटेजीज और बिहाइंड द सीन्स लर्निंग. तो इस एपिसोड को एंड तक जरूर देखिए और हमारे यूट्यूब चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कीजिए और लाइक करना ना भूलिए. लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड.
Hi, Chef Devika. Welcome to Big Better Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chef, for coming here.
No, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, Project Sweet Dish के बारे में बात करने से पहले मैं चाहती हूँ आपके बारे में थोड़ा जाने. How was your childhood, early 20s, education?
Childhood was, there's no quintessential story कि 8-year-old baking with mother and grandmother. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. मुझे बिल्कुल शौक नहीं था किचन में घुसने का as a child. In fact, up until 18, up until college, nobody could have pointed a finger and said कि मैं शायद किचन या इस फील्ड में या इस इंडस्ट्री में जाऊंगी, because I genuinely had no interest. But one thing was कि मुझे खाना बहुत पसंद था. Especially I had a huge sweet tooth. Everything and anything that came with sugar, I would pretty much engorge. I used to eat like a pehlwan, No, I really did. Like, you can ask my mother. I used to devour like 20 pancakes in one go types. And then in college sometime, I guess my mother just got tired of my tantrum and she's like, nahi bana rahi ho. So I had to make my own sugar cravings, and that was the first time कि मुझे लगा कि this is something that I can pursue. I like this so far. But I wasn't convinced because obviously मेरा background psychology में था. College में DU से मैंने psychology की थी. So this was not only so far away from it, but मुझे बिल्कुल idea नहीं था इस दुनिया का, इस world का, इस industry का. So I was like, let me do a short course or let me see for a few months. अगर मुझे सही लगता है, then maybe I can pursue. But I wasn't convinced about this industry. So, and this is what, 10 years back, I think. So back then, up to the landscape has changed. There are so many institutes and courses and individuals who are giving out information and knowledge, including yours. So back then, I think a decade back, the options were much, much lesser. So I had, there was this institute in House Khas called IICA. So I did a small culinary course from there, which was great. It taught me basics of, pastry and bakery. What I'm very thankful to is them getting me an internship to Oberoi Gurgaon after that, because I think that was the milestone change मेरे career में at least, because getting into the hotel, मुझे realize हुआ how much I liked it. Like I liked the hustle, I liked the chaos. मुझे बड़ा मज़ा आता था कि लोग भाग रहे हैं, भसड़ हो रही है, लोग चिल्ला रहे हैं, पिकअप ये हो रहा है, वो हो रहा है. I used to thrive in that. And somehow, and obviously I was younger also, so I had that much energy. But doing 12-14 hours did not seem difficult at that time. बड़े आराम से निकल जाते थे. I feel I got lucky also, to be honest, because I had a great team. मेरे बॉसेस अच्छे थे, मेरे शेफ्स, मेरे मेंटोर्स, मेरे आसपास के लोग, आई फील सभी बड़े अच्छे थे. तो मेरा टाइम तो ओबरॉय में बहुत अच्छा था. एंड वो 4 महीने बेसिकली सीमेंटेड माई फेथ इन द फैक्ट कि हाँ मुझे इंडस्ट्री परस्यू करनी है. सो आई थिंक आफ्टर अ मिराक्युलस 4 months of training at the Oberoi, I realized, okay, this is good. I want to seriously commit to this, and I want to see where it goes further on. So yeah, I think after that I started working, and I worked with the Leela, and I worked with the Oberoi again. So I thoroughly enjoyed my stint working before I opened PSD, of course. So I am very lucky. I feel like in both the hotels, a lot of people कितने अच्छे experiences नहीं होते शायद hotels में work करने के, and this is true both for men and women.
Yeah.
But I have only the best things to say about both the hotels I worked in. I feel like it gave me so much knowledge, so much confidence, and so much education about things जो कि मुझे पता भी नहीं था ज़रूरत होती है life में. And not just in terms of kitchen, but other life skills, you know, basic life skills, people interaction, team management and all, which is now paying off for me.
Yeah.
So I feel like I had the best time in my 20s thanks to this. And it was a more careful time. I'm a very chill person. So मैं stress नहीं लेती किसी चीज़ का. So I used to be very chill there also. Like I used to wake up I had a 6 a.m. shift. So I would never crib about that. I would wake up आराम से 5 बजे, और मुझे कभी stress नहीं होता था. I used to work 12 hours, हंसते खेलते गाने चला दिए बेकरी में. So it used to be such a happy and pleasant time that you never really felt the stress of it. You could just go, be creative, and हाँ 6 दिन में से 1 दिन होगा जब you won't feel like it, but that's okay, right? That happens in every job. So I had the best time.
Okay. So शेफ आप इंडिया के टॉप किचन्स में काम कर रहे थे, राइट? वहाँ एक जॉब सिक्योरिटी थी और आपको ग्रोथ भी मिल रही थी. So वो छोड़ के आपने अपना काम स्टार्ट करने का क्यों सोचा?
हाँ, good question. So I worked with the Leela group, Leela Chanakyapuri. I was doing their pastry for their restaurant Le Cirque. Then I worked for Oberoi Gurgaon again. I think I worked there for more than 2 years. And see, I didn't quit because I didn't like my job. On the contrary, I loved my job. I cried when I handed in my resignation because मुझे इतना बुरा लग रहा था कि I won't be working with my chef anymore. I won't be working with my team anymore. I was heartbroken. Neither was it because I felt like I can't work for somebody else. You know, काफी लोगों का होता है, oh, I need to be my own boss. मुझे ऐसा कुछ नहीं था. I was very happy working for other people. I was a good soldier. मेरे शेफ जो बोलते थे मैं उससे 10% ज़्यादा ही करके उन्हें देती थी. So it was neither of those two reasons, which is most common with people. I think you're right, you know, when I think about it, everything was going so well. I had growth. In fact, जब मैंने quit किया, I was in my CDP training for Oberoi, and everything was going good. I mean, I would have had a great run with the hotels if I had continued, but I was young, I was naive, I was overeager, you know. You see things, you do things, and you're like, you know, you have to do something of your own, you have to make this, make that. Now there are so many options. The landscape for pastry, not only in the country, but in Delhi specifically, Delhi Gurgaon has completely changed, you know. But when I opened, which is 5 साल पहले, इतना नहीं था, बहुत different था. You know, 5 years seems like a very small time, but 5 साल में completely बदल गया, especially because COVID के बाद people have just come out with F&B like no one's business. So back then, 5 years ago, not as many options, you know, especially not for modern cakes, not for the kind of cakes जो कि मैंने envision किया था करने के लिए. बहुत आसान है एक 5 स्टार में बैठ के वैसे desserts बनाना, you know, because A, आपका clientele वैसा ही है, they're all fancy, they all want all that stuff, and B, I had no repercussions for it. मैं बना देती थी जो भी मुझे मन करता था. And bas, it was for me. I used to be happy. It was my creative expression. I didn't care about anything at all except for just making that dessert. No one other concern in life I had. You know, so the fact that that was not available anywhere outside, like गिन के probably 2 जगह होंगी पूरे Delhi NCR में जो उससे कुछ remotely similar कर रहे होंगे in terms of product offering. So I knew what I wanted to do, which was to create something that was not available outside, but also which could be an expression of how I wanted to eat dessert. I am not a very fancy person. I like my desserts to look fancy, but they have to taste very soulful. Like they have to be the kind of dessert कि मैं बैठ के पूरा खत्म कर लूँ. If I have 2 dainty bites and I walk away, then that's not my kind of dessert, you know. So, and it's very difficult to have a balance of the two. Rarely, even today, will you find a dessert that looks great but also taste as great as it looks.
Yeah.
The taste most often lacks.
Yeah.
In comparison to how people can make their desserts look. That's the easier part. So, you know, and most of the pastry shops were very French dominated, you know.
Yes.
Everybody had French names and French inspiration and what all, which is great because the country did not have that. I think it needed it. But also that was very far away from what I wanted or what I imagined. मैं कभी France नहीं गई to a pastry school. So my education and all was not of that pedigree, you know. I learned everything that I knew working in the hotels that I worked at. And while, yes, I learned from global chefs and everything, but the idea of what I made was very much centric to where we live now. And I think that was not there out there in the market. And I think that's what we've tried to achieve with PSD. Not to have a French patisserie per se, but to have a place where people can experience dessert in a way that is not available outside. And I think that is something that we've very successfully done, which I will shamelessly take credit for.
Okay. शेफ, जो लोग F&B इंडस्ट्री से नहीं है, मैं चाहती हूँ आप उनके लिए एक्सप्लेन करें कि क्लाउड किचन होती क्या है.
Cloud Kitchen is basically the same thing as a restaurant, just you don't have a face for it, right? There is no brick and mortar store to it. So this model has both pros and cons. But for people who are starting, for people who are perhaps unsure of what they want to do or not very confident or not seasoned business folks, I think this is a great way to start because you save up on so much. Yes, you have to do extra mehnat on a lot of other things in a cloud kitchen because unlike a brick and mortar store, you don't get the fancy glamorized version of a storefront and you know, everything that can attract audience automatically. There is no good location, footfall and automatically people pouring in. You don't rely on all of that. In a cloud kitchen, no matter what you do, either you're reliant on third-party delivery apps like a Swiggy or a Zomato, or you work every day very hard on your own online presence, fight for the attention of your audience and get them here, which is extremely difficult. It is not an easy task. But the plus point for that is that your costs are much lower as compared to a brick and mortar retail F&B outlet if you were to open. So if you are not sure about what you want to do, if there's scope for you to make mistakes, which I'm sure there is, then it's always a good idea to start small with this and figure out. And once you're sure of what works for you, then go full on.
Okay. तो शेफ, आप PSD हमेशा से क्लाउड किचन मॉडल में ही चाहते थे या it was just an initial plan?
Yeah, you know, I would want to sound smart and say that this was the initial plan, but I'll be lying. When I left Oberoi, I was all over-eager and naive, and I'm like, I'm going to open an outlet like this and that and this and that and this and that, and I realized the repercussions of that, and I realized I'm also a realist. तो मेरा रिस्क मिटिगेशन काफ़ी हाई है. तो उस टाइम पे I realized, and plus I didn't have a lot of money. How will I have money? I worked at Oberoi. So obviously I knew, I was very well aware of the fact that I would have to borrow money from my mother and father when I open something, and just as a personal kick, it kills me to do that. So I made sure that I sat for, I think, 4 months. I sat, and every day I would work on how to start smaller, like smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And you will not believe it how small we started. But I made sure I started as small as I possibly could. I could not have possibly started any smaller, because that was the amount that I was okay losing.
Okay.
I was like, if I tank this and if I can't return this amount to my mom and dad, I'll live with it.
Okay.
Which is a very small amount. But I just also, I did not have any confidence back then. Like, I had confidence in my product, but neither do I come from a business family, neither do I have any pedigree in that form of business. So there was a very good chance that I failed. And because I'm a realist, I would read the stats and I'd be like, okay, restaurant business ka failure ratio, great, good to know, So practically speaking, I was very well prepared for something like that. Obviously, I was hopeful that it wouldn't happen, but I would be like, if something like XYZ situation happens, I should not fall in the gutter completely because of it. So I was like, if I can pull it off, if I have it in me, I will grow from here. If I can't, I'll figure something else out. So I think it's, for me, I'm very happy and I still stick to that. I start whatever new I'm doing, I start as small as possible, because for me, risk mitigation is number one.
Okay. शिव, जब आपने PhD लॉन्च किया, आपके पहले 6 महीने कैसे थे?
बहुत एक्साइटिंग थे. हमने जनवरी में लॉन्च किया था और मार्च में कोविड हो गया था. Fun times. No, again, like I mentioned, starting small helped. It was just 2 people. It was just Ritvik and me when we started, and that's why we could even sustain. We started in Jan. We launched sourdoughs. That was one of the first things we did, because उससे पहले 6 महीने हमने अपनी किचन में रोज हम लोग एक बैच sourdough को बनाते थे to be able to get to a point where we could confidently sell it. So we started very small. There was sourdough and one more bread perhaps, and एक dessert menu था, छोटा सा dessert and cake menu. So we started with that, and we were just gathering a little bit of momentum. 2 महीने ही हुए थे, barely कुछ किया था, and March में COVID हो गया. So ठीक है, we shut shop and everything. Again, it was easy for us because 2 ही लोगों की टीम थी, तो कोई सैलरी वैलरी, कोई ऐसे ओवरहेड्स नहीं थे जो एक नए बिजनेस को ऐसे क्रशिंग वेट में दबाए. सो लकी अगेन. COVID happened 6 months, so obviously nobody was doing anything, so we were also chilling at home, imagining what to do next. But I think July, perhaps end July, lockdown restrictions थोड़े lift हुए थे, तो we started doing stuff again in the kitchen. I think at that time, what helped was, A, the fact that it was just the 2 of us. B, we realized that everyone's at home. So a good way to monetize this is to take classes. So for the next 6 months, 8 months, I think, हमने बहुत सारी classes hold की. And we developed a very good audience with it. And weekend पे hold करते थे हम class. So it used to be so funny. And plus हमें classes was one thing, but हमें product भी करना था. So it used to be such a chaotic situation in our kitchen, because weekend पे Ritvik used to be taking the class, and we started something called weekend specials. Okay, so on Thursday we will launch a box of some XYZ 3-4 products, and only available for the weekend, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and 2 ही लोग थे. So for the classes, the preparation and all was done by us. The marketing was done by us. Taking the finance, everything was done by us. Similarly, for the weekend box, the product was made by us. On social media, taking the content for it, putting it out there, marketing it, taking orders, making bills. So it used to be so funny that it's one work table and उसमें हम दोनों का लैपटॉप खुला हुआ है और एक इंसान गेस्ट से बात कर रहा है, दूसरा इंसान गेस्ट को बिल भेज रहा है, तीसरा इंसान यहाँ पे sourdough knead कर रहा है, everything on one table because we did not have an option. But I think that frugality teaches you a lot. Yeah. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for the support that we had with each other that time. Because wo nahi hota to I really don't see how PSD could have made it through that time. So yeah, it used to be the first 6 months were basically every weekend him taking a class with somebody, me assisting him on classes, and then side mein also dispatching orders for the weekend boxes. So those did very well for us, the weekend boxes. Every weekend we would get 30, 40, 50 boxes. And to make those products alone is also difficult. So I used to be making and finishing and baking everything and sending them off to get delivered with XYZ riders. And meanwhile, there's a camera. Ritvik is taking classes. I'm also assisting him on the classes and speaking to guests and everything. So it was chaotic, but it earned us a decent revenue, and we were able to sustain. Not only sustain, after that, I think whatever we earned, we put into making a second kitchen. Okay. So I mean so I'm very grateful for that. Like within the first year of PSD, we could invest and make a larger kitchen. I think that's great. So all in all, I am extremely thankful for how it went.
आप शेफ ऋत्विक से कैसे मिले and how did he join you with PSD?
We opened PSD together. He didn't join me. ऋत्विक Oberoi. So he was the pastry chef for Oberoi Gurgaon.
Okay.
And that's when we worked together for 2 years, and everything was great because over there we had a great team. We had a great set of people around us. We had our executive chef, Chef Manish, who for me is like one of my favorite people on earth. I used to fangirl over him so hard when I used to be at Oberoi. Like, I used to go every day to the hotel. I'm like, today I have to impress this man, And everything I used to do, I used to be like, is Chef Manish happy with me? Is Chef Manish happy? He's one of the best people, okay? Like, nothing I say about him is going to do justice. But, when you have such a strong and happy workforce around you, everything seems very progressive and very generative, Anything that I was a trainee, I was a commie, So it was okay for them to not give me this much weight or this much responsibility or creative freedom, but they did. And I will always be grateful for that, whenever I would be like, ye de do, wo de do, ye ingredient ke saath ye try karna hai, wo. Nobody ever said no. As long as you're proactive, people are always open and encouraging for you to try and do stuff, which I think is so great for learning for anybody at an earlier stage. It was for me. So Ritwik was my pastry chef there, and that's when we got into this thing of, we have to open this, and somehow our ideas were similar. So we were able to quit Oberoi and start PSD.
Okay. Chef, PSD was a cloud kitchen bakery, right? There was no physical store.
Yeah.
ऐसे में marketing कैसे की जाती है अपनी brand की? लोगों को कैसे बताया जाता है about your bakery?
So firstly, I'm the worst person to be asking this question, because I'm saying this very seriously. I don't think मैंने अच्छा काम किया है in marketing and promoting my brand. I think I could have done much better. बहुत लेट मुझे इस चीज़ का realization हुआ. So जितना भी limited knowledge मुझे है इस topic पे, I will discuss with you. But by no means don't take my words. Like, I'm sure there are other people who know much better than me, so please ask them. But see, it is definitely difficult to have a cloud kitchen, especially for a cloud kitchen for our kind of product. Cloud kitchen works differently for different kind of food streams. Something that our audience is very accepting of, very comfortable with. Like, for example, if I were to open a biryani kitchen, for that, a cloud kitchen is brilliant because there's no education required. The audience knows ki biryani hai, they order, they click, they know what they're receiving. There's no stress. Nobody's thinking 10 times ki maine kya order kar diya. We've grown up with it. So there's no education cost to it. So for products and foods like those, it's a brilliant model because your brand has to have an outreach, yes, but there's no education cost involved for your product itself. For brands and for product lines like ours, it is a lot more difficult because, as you know, हम नहीं बड़े हुए हैं इन सब products के साथ. इसको क्या पता मूस केक क्या होता है, ऑन्थर में क्या होता है, नहीं पता है, that's okay. So it's that much more difficult for you to do it online because firstly, you have to educate your audience. And I can't stress this enough, education cost बहुत high है. क्योंकि, and this is, इसमें उनकी गलती नहीं है. Obviously, they're not supposed to know this. मैं मालपुए खा के बड़ी हुई हूँ, you know, काजू कत्ती खा के बड़े हुए हम लोग, हमको क्या पता है ऑन्थर में क्या है, मूस केक क्या है. So the fact that we are now bringing in that change, I think everybody who is in this is responsible equally for that education in the audience. But that takes cost and that takes time. And I didn't realize that early on. I realized that later, you know, after doing this for 2 years, I'm like, you know, so it was definitely difficult, especially for a product like ours, because if you see it in retail, अगर आप store में जाके वो same cake देखो, you won't think twice before purchasing it. But to convince people to purchase it online, बहुत मुश्किल है, बहुत मुश्किल है. क्योंकि you know बाहर से it looks very nice and pretty, it's glazed, it's shiny, it has a chocolate garnish, बहुत अच्छी बात है. But people are very skeptical about how it looks. And also कुछ नई चीज़ होती है ना, अगर कोई इंसान एक चीज़ एक बार खरीद लेता है and they have a bad experience, so then it's that much more difficult for them to get you to try them the same thing again. तो अगर किसी ने एक मूस बेस केक पहले ट्राई किया है जो कि एकदम ही डिफरेंट कैटेगरी में हो भले, बट और अगर उनका एक्सपीरियंस अच्छा नहीं था, मेरे लिए इतना मुश्किल होगा इंसान को कन्वर्ट करना टू बी एबल टू ट्राई माई केक्स. एंड दैट इज समथिंग आई डिड फॉर द फर्स्ट 2 years. देयर वर सो मेनी टाइम्स वेयर गेस्ट वुड कॉल मी एंड ये कन्वर्जन फोन पे होता था, ओवर अ फोन कॉल. वो वेबसाइट पे इंस्टाग्राम पे कन्विंस ही नहीं होते थे. दे वुड कॉल मी एंड बोले ये क्या है, एंड आई बी लाइक हाँ ठीक है, वेरी वैलिड क्वेश्चन. और मैं 5 मिनट बात करके समझाती थी उन्हें ये क्या है, व्हाट टू एक्सपीरियंस, व्हाट टू एक्सपेक्ट व्हेन दे गेट द प्रोडक्ट. और फिर you know, they have to be like, अच्छा ठीक है, हाँ convince भेज दो. Once they have it, then there's no issue. Then they're great. Then they, you know, there's a repeat and we have a great one of that. So that's not a problem. But that initial hiccup that they have, उसको overcome करने में बहुत मेहनत लगती है, बहुत मेहनत लगती है. You have to be consistent and it is not easy. I'm gonna just be honest. Now it might be easier, but it's still very difficult. Like to convince people to buy something that is alien to them, not alien to them, but still not very familiar. Yeah, it's not easy. Like cookies are all easy, right? Yeah. But if you tell somebody I've made a passion fruit and milk chocolate cake, उनको time लगेगा आपको convince करने में. कैसे कोई खरीद लेगा जो चीज़ सुनी नहीं है? And especially in a cloud model. And you know, it's so funny. The most consistent feedback we ever got, we still get, is your products when they reach us, they look exactly like the website. And I'm like, but आप shock क्यों हो रहे हो? Isn't this what you're supposed to expect? But that's when I realized that that's not the norm, because people would generally call and be, hey, it looks exactly like the website. And I'm like, yeah, well, how would you expect it? And they were like, no, you know, because usually the picture on the website is the best day product. जब आपने photo shoot किया और आपका product एकदम end to end, it's looking its best. But then the production, the way you make it every day, many times doesn't hold up to that same standard. So people are always a little disappointed. So the fact that was a recurring feedback for us, I was like, wow, you know what? So people don't expect that. People are genuinely shocked ki I am getting a certain thing. And the education cost is a lot, I'm not going to lie, for a product line that is new to the market.
So शिव, जो लोग इस साल क्लाउड किचन या क्लाउड बेकरी खोलना चाह रहे हैं, उन्हें पहले के 6 महीनों में किन चीज़ों पे फोकस करना चाहिए?
I think the first thing is कि आप खोल क्यों रहे हो. It might not sound nice, but just because आपके मम्मी पापा ने बोल दिया कि आप बहुत अच्छा ब्राउनी बनाते हो, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है आप अपना F&B बिजनेस खोल दो. So I think because ये बहुत होता है and it's great कि आपको वहाँ से कॉन्फिडेंस आ रहा है, बट यू हैव टू रियलाइज जस्ट बिकॉज आपके घर वाले या आपके फ्रेंड सर्कल ने आपको या आपके फेवरेट अंकल आंटी ने आपको बोल दिया कि यार यू नो यू हैव मेड समथिंग दैट इज बेटर देन ये मैंने कभी नहीं खाया है ऐसा. That's very nice, but it doesn't relate to a successful business venture. just because you can make something good at home, it has zero relevance to you being able to translate into a proper business. So I think as a proof of concept, अगर आप professionally trained नहीं हो इसमें और अगर आप खोलना चाहते हो तो पहले अपना people outside of your known circle जिनको who have no problem hurting your feelings and who have no vested interest in you or your personal growth, वैसी audience से आप पूछो in a lineup of 5 things, which is probably your product along with the best product in your category, and ask them if they are willing to pick your product over everything else. And if that is the case, then maybe, you know, you should move on to the next step. But otherwise, if not, if you're still genuinely interested, take a training somewhere. अपनी वो shop खोलने से पहले, I'm sorry, first thing I think is very important that people realize the effort that goes into this profession. Because I think बहुत लोग नहीं realize करते हैं कि ये बहुत ही mentally and physically taxing है. Not only are you on your feet the whole day, 12 hours plus, but you're also very mentally taxed. It's not a labor job, right? It's a creative job. तो आपका दिमाग चल रहा है, you're thinking things, you're constantly working on multiple things. So it's extremely taxing. So unless you've worked before, and it can be anywhere, it can be a hotel, which I highly recommend, but don't go to any hotel. Pick one of the top 3 in the country so that you go where, you know, there is a good atmosphere and good mentors and good things to learn from. I think that's very important. I think nobody should get out of school or out of their own home setups and just open a professional setup. I think you cannot put a price on the experience that is required. At least 2 years of working minimum. Anything less than that, and you think कि आपने 3-4 साल के 3-4 महीने के internship में सीख लिया है everything that you can learn, that then absolutely wrong. You haven't even barely scratched the surface. I worked for 3 years in hotels before I started my own thing, and I'm going to be completely honest, I still think that I started early. I have no regrets with PSD, but if I could, I would go back, I would work a little more, because I think there was still so much for me to learn before I started. Now it's okay because I learned everything on the job, but I could have learned it on somebody else's expense. That would have been nicer. So first, I think, is to realize why you're opening and if you're in fact credible enough to open or not. Secondly, I think is to start small, because no matter how well prepared you are or you think you are, and you have a fully functional business plan laid out and everything, when you actually get into the market, everything changes, and you have to be open enough to be able to go with that change. अगर आपने सोचा था कि मैं XYZ product line करूँगा, maybe 6 months down the line you realize that oh that's not working for me, और मुझे pivot करना है, मुझे change करना है, अब ये audience को चाहिए, मैं ये करूँगा. So there will always be changes, there will always be things जो आपने नहीं realize किया होगा, and उसका risk mitigation बहुत important है. So to start small is imperative, and remain small, remain frugal till you realize what is making you money. Don't be overeager or in a rush, or don't have FOMO as to what others are doing in the industry. XYZ people have opened whatever, that's fine. I think until you realize what is making you money and what is working for you, it's a fool's job to expand on something that is already not working. So it's very important to start small and build accordingly. It's okay if you don't have an office. I've run my business for 5 years now, and this month in our new kitchen is where I've gotten my office. Before that, it was put a chair next to your working kitchen, put your laptop on your lap and work. You know, so I don't think you don't need to have a very glamorized, fancy version of things until you don't deserve it, until you realize what works for you. So I think that's one. Second is, for a cloud kitchen, there are a lot of benefits as to the cost of it. तो कोई fancy जगह पे please अपना kitchen मत खोलो. Fix a good location, but fix a good location that does not have great rent. So ideally, whatever your estimated, your hoped, your projected revenue is, your rent should be about 5% of that in a cloud kitchen to start with, at least, not more than that. I mean, if you're bending over backwards, then I'll give 10%, but anything more than that is not going to work. So fix a location that is nice and central. It doesn't have to be posh. Nobody's going to look at where you are. Nobody's going to come in. So anything functional that caters to your audience in a 5 to 10 kilometer radius is where you should be placed. Which brings me to the audience point. I think a lot of people make the mistake of wanting to please everybody. And I think the earlier आप realize करो कि not everybody is your market, happier you'll be. Food is such a creative thing, right? It's not like a black and white profession. It's not a lawyer or a doctor where you have right and wrong. It's up to interpretation. So what I like might not work for you. What you like, I might be completely over it. So not everybody is going to like your product, and you don't have to waste time on everybody liking your product. Understand who your market is and focus on making them happy, and learn to say no. If somebody doesn't understand your product, if they're not your audience, don't waste time in trying to sell your product to them. They're not for you. Graciously say, you know what, you're right. Why don't you try them? And I have done that multiple times. I cannot count on my fingertips how many times I've done that. Not only now, but initially also when we were starting and we were struggling. Not struggling, but it would have been easy to give in to the temptation of saying yes to anything that came our way. Initially when we started, it was 100 requests for chocolate truffle cakes. And if I took every one of those requests, I'd be a millionaire right now. So it takes something to say no to them constantly. Yeah. But if you have an audience in mind, if you have a specific thing in mind that you genuinely want to do and want to achieve, that takes a bit of guts, because you need to persistently say no to a lot of other things and understand that this is my audience. And even if it's a smaller audience, focus on making them happy and blindly and blatantly ignore everybody else. And that's fine, because it's important to understand your audience. What else? What was the question
again? First 6 months pe kin cheezon pe focus?
All of this, man. Just hire well. Understand what you're good at. If you're a chef who's opening, please don't partner with another chef of the same skill set. That's something that I learned. Headbutting is not good. If you're somebody from a business background, then hire a chef who's worthy of their skill. Hire complementary, strong people who can help you build your business. If I was a chef and I was starting again, I would probably hire somebody from a finance background or business growth or perhaps marketing or something like that. I definitely wouldn't partner with another chef. So I think it's very important to have somebody with complementary skills. And yeah, I think that's about it. Just also keep a small menu. Don't try to do everything in terms of your menu, A to Z. That doesn't instill a lot of confidence in your audience. Keep a very small and specific menu. If I do 10 things, I feel, the audience feels like you're a jack of all trades and master of none. That's not a good impression to give off. So I think what I've realized is if you can instill confidence in the audience that you do something specifically, this product line or something, and you're extremely good at it, the chances of them coming to you are far greater than you saying, yeah, I do 10 things.
Yeah.
Nobody believes you do 10 things equally well.
Yes.
So just have a very small menu and be specific in what you're good at.
Okay. शेफ प्रोजेक्ट स्वीडिश में आपका R&D प्रोसेस क्या होता है किसी भी न्यू प्रोडक्ट को लॉन्च करने के लिए? आई वांट टू नो फ्रॉम स्टेप 1 टू फाइनली हैविंग द प्रोडक्ट ऑन द मेन्यू.
So R&D is pretty, since we're a chef-driven business, I'm not going to lie, it's a little all over the place in a fun way, because I'm also a little erratic in my brain. Someday I want to do this, someday I want to do that, but that's the fun of it. R&D for us is varied, because I don't like to be influenced a lot by what's happening seasonally or the festive season or something. In fact, for 5 years PSD has not really done much on Diwali and Rakhi and all of that, which is supposedly where bakers make all their money. We just chill in those times, because I don't think we're very influenced by that. I think I'm more influenced by what kind of product I want to introduce or what kind of experience I want to introduce to the audience next, and we're always trying to push. So R&D starts in various ways, and initially we had a very, I wouldn't say wrong, but I'll say naive way of looking at things. Like I would look at something and I would imagine something and I'd be like, oh, this kind of a cake will look so nice. And then I'll be like, is look ka mujhe cake banana hai? And then I will figure out what to put inside. And it worked, but it didn't work very well, if I'm being honest. And then I realized that you have to reverse engineer things. So now when we start our R&D, something that we do is we don't think about the final look of the cake or the dessert or anything at all. And this is something I tell my team. I'm like, forget how the cake looks, because sometimes, we can get a little biased. If something looks too nice, we will believe it tastes equally nice as well. So to get that bias out, whenever we do trials, we don't finish any of our cakes. So it doesn't look good. I mean, it doesn't have that shiny glaze or that fancy looking chocolate garnish to, slightly askew our view of the product. So when you taste it, it's literally just the taste of it. There's nothing visually that can tell me ki haan yaar, ye to acha lag raha hai. So until and unless I'm convinced about the flavors, the textures, and the composition of a dessert, I don't think about how the finished product is going to look. Because early on, I realized that this is a skill that I have, that I'm good at making things look really beautiful. Because this is something you pick up when you work in a hotel. At Oberoi, we had to do Sunday brunches, and you have to do 20 desserts, and they have to be out by 12:30. And sometimes, many times, you think of something and it doesn't translate. So you have 10 minutes to make 20 desserts, and you have a set of things, and you have to make it look good. So I realized that making things look good immediately is not that difficult. I can do that. But it's also extremely important to back that up with skill and taste. Yeah. That's the whole point of it. So now our R&D starts opposite. So I think the idea is flavors. We're always at PSD trying to bring forth flavors that the audience is comfortable trying, but it also pushes them a little away from what they're used to or what they're very comfortable with. So, for example, I'll say, we have an ice cream on our menu, and that's milk chocolate, Earl Grey, and passion fruit. Most people would not willingly try that. But for every one odd flavor that we have on the menu, I'll pair it with 2 more comforting flavors, so that, if somebody picks it up and they're like, oh, I don't know how this will be, they'll at least be a little pacified by the other 2 more familiar flavors, and they'll give it a chance. So that is very important. I think I have a few rules with my team when I tell them, if you think of a dessert or if you're starting something new, there are a few set of things that they have to follow. The first thing is that it can't have more than 3 flavor profiles. It gets confusing after that. 2 to 3 major profiles is all, nothing above that. The second would be, it can't be available outside. If it's something that easily available for the audience outside, then we won't be doing it. Third is, it can't be easy to replicate. If somebody eats my cake, any of my cakes, they can't replicate it. Okay. It's going to take a lot for anybody to replicate them. And I'm not talking about the look of it, just I'm talking about internally, how it's structured, how it's layered. That's 3. The other thing is, when we look at profile flavors, we start by understanding what kind of flavor profile translates best with what kind of texture. And what I mean by that is, not every flavor is most prominent in every kind of component. For example, if, let's say, almond is something that I'm doing, then a great soft almond financier or an almond sponge is great. If I'm doing something like, let's say, a raspberry, I'm taking general flavors right now, then I can't do a raspberry sponge. Yeah, that's not enough to bring forth and do justice to that as a flavor profile. So firstly, you need to understand what flavor corresponds to what texture and what kind of component brings out that flavor in its best capacity. So once you have those, then you start building. Then the second thing for us is to understand the ratio of any dessert. And as an audience, I think we prefer a lot more texture. Like outside, because I think we've grown up with that kind of a palate. Outside the country, people would be much happier with creamier desserts. For us, we need texture, we need crunch, we need sponge. If it's just 3 layers of a creamier or a moussey texture, our audience sometimes is not very happy with it. So for me, like, I make sure at least 40% of my desserts are strong texturally in terms of a sponge or something like that. So the second step would be to define a ratio for how we want the structure to be. Depends on the dessert as well. And then we do trials. Then we get into R&D. Then almost always one of the things that we end up doing is balancing sugar. Pretty much every time we start R&D, we end up reducing the sugar by 20 to 30% with whatever recipes we pick up. And then once we're convinced with a dessert, then we look at 2 things. Then we look at how it's to be finished. And that also plays, because we're a cloud bakery, it has to travel well. Because obviously our country, heat and humidity breaks down human beings also. What is a tiny dessert? So as long as it travels well, then I think that's the end of the R&D process.
Okay. So chef, recently we have seen a lot of chefs, a lot of brands doing eggless French desserts, right? How do you feel about that?
I feel very good about that. I enjoy it thoroughly because that means there's other options out there in the market and I don't have to do it. So I'm very happy about it. If somebody comes and they're like, we need more egg-free options, I very happily guide them towards people who are doing egg-free desserts. I have no problems in it. And I genuinely think that's really nice because that takes a bit of, you have to really get into it. You have to break down things. You have to understand. It's not as easy. You can't just be like, egg hata ke dahi dal do ya kuch, people do that. People do those replacements. And I'm like, it's not that easy because in every recipe, an egg brings something different, right?
Yes.
Flavor, protein, binding, aeration, whatever. So you have to understand the science behind it. And if somebody else is taking the initiative of doing that, I'm very grateful for that because I don't have it in me to do it. And nor am I, to be honest, I'm not motivated to do it. Okay, if it doesn't motivate me enough, I can't get myself to do it, and this definitely doesn't. I do have egg-free options on my menu, but I don't think I'm the person who would do egg-free eclairs or egg-free macarons or an egg-free financier or something. I'm happy to include a lot of egg-free desserts, but those will be desserts that are not compromising in any way. Like they won't be lesser than my egg desserts. So if something takes away from the dessert because I have to take away the egg, then I probably would not do it. If the best version of it is with egg, that's how I would like to keep it. We do have egg-free desserts and they're absolutely beautiful. They're as good as the egg ones. But that's because their construction is such that the egg is not required. So would I necessarily force myself to replace something just to make something egg-free? I don't think I'm that person, but I'm genuinely very happy that there are so many egg-free and healthy and whatnot options coming in the market because I think people need it. So I'm always very happy to refer people to other people who are doing these things.
Okay. Yeah. R&D के point of view से chef, ऐसा कौन सा डेजर्ट था जो सबसे ज्यादा डिफिकल्ट था आपके लिए क्रैक करना?
Cracking the dessert has 2 meanings for me when I listen to the question right now. Ek as a chef and ek as a business owner. So as a chef, cracking a dessert means creating something which tastes and looks absolutely great, right? Yeah. But as a business owner, it means creating something that hits a home run with the audience. Yeah. And it's not necessarily that both things are complementary. They don't usually happen at the same time, I can make a great dessert. Or aisa bahut baar hua hai ki, as a team, we'll create a dessert and everyone's convinced ki ye best hai and we put it on the menu and now it bombs like nobody's business. So I think cracking a dessert has to be a mix of what I and the team are convinced of. Ki, this is a great tasting dessert. It looks good and everything. Ticks all of our R&D boxes and all of that. But also is equally great for the audience. So I think that translation is tough because it's tough for a brand like me because I'm always trying to push the audience 20% out of their comfort zone. So to find that sweet spot where they're now it's easier, I will say, because now my audience is curated in a way that they expect this out of us as a brand. But in the first maybe 2.5 years where we were creating this impression of ourselves, it was a little difficult because the audience was used to a certain thing in the market, which was not what we were doing. तो थोड़ा difficult था. But I think ऐसा कोई product नहीं है जो हम बहुत मुश्किल हुआ है crack करना. R&D के हम every product takes 5 to 7 rounds of R&D. There's no doubt about it. कुछ भी 5 rounds of R&D से पहले launch होता ही नहीं है. It's never in the kitchen has it happened that the first thing is gold for us. Like somebody will have an issue. Even smaller things like this is setting too fast, so the setting agent has to be addressed, or maybe the sugar has to go down 5%. These are major things, might not seem like that, but we always have a few rounds of R&D. And even for a cloud kitchen, because we don't have a lot of control over the eating experience. It's not a restaurant, so ऐसा नहीं है कि I'm straight away giving it to you and I see you consume it. So because it's a little difficult because you don't have power over how the customer is consuming your product. You can give instructions to the best of your ability, but 90% they will not be addressed. So the eating experience is also very important. So the R&D involves also us transporting it, keeping it in the fridge for one day and eating it later, because all of that is also how the audience judges your product. So I think cracking a product is not the issue. I think the difficult part is to find a balance between what you as a creative person or a chef or a team think is a great product, and then that product also translates to being equally good for the audience, which I think now is happening for us. So I'm very grateful for that, because it took a little time for us to understand the pulse of the audience. And the thing I mentioned about if one flavor is a little out there, then I'll pair it with 2 comforting flavors to make it a little better for the audience. I think this is a learning that I had after the first 2 years of PSD, because we would put out comforting desserts and then we would put out desserts jo hame karna tha as, chefs, and it would just not translate. People would not be willing to pick it up only. Even something like, which is now a bestseller on our menu, is our bubblegum cassata. It's now brilliant with the audience. But I can't tell you the amount of times somebody would call me and say, इसमें bubblegum का flavor है क्या? आप कैसे बनाते हो? And I'm like, that's a very relevant question. And I would be like, is this for children? Because it says bubblegum.
Yeah.
And it's very relevant. And I'd be like, nahi, this is what it is. It's basically a cassata mousse with cream cheese and with pistas and with berry. And there's a slight hint of nostalgia. That is the bubblegum. So once you explain it, I'm like, and then once you try it, that's probably one of our most well-received cakes. And I think that's a testament to the whole process of cracking that dessert.
Okay. Chef, as a business, आपके पास क्या system है जिससे आप customer feedback और उनका review collect करते हैं?
अब है, पहले नहीं था. Very sad. This is something we learned. We were silly children when we started, and we used to make a product and hope the best. But now we're better. Now we're smarter folks. So, your website gathers data. Most of us, because we're not on Swiggy and Zomato, so we don't have those data points, which I think for any cloud kitchen would be the most important form of collection of data, because Swiggy and Zomato very openly and very transparently, I mean, they won't share customer names, but they'll share your data, they'll share your audience base, they'll share everything. But since those avenues are not there for me, most of my data comes directly from either the website or our Instagram ordering platform. We have groups within ourselves as well. We have a system where, one day post the order, a message goes out for feedback. And mostly our guests are such that they give feedback on their own, which is strange, which I did not expect. But most of them, not most of them, but a good 40% of them would revert with feedback on their own. Good, bad, improvement, whatever. And usually the thing is that people come back to you if there's bad feedback. People don't come back for you for good feedback. Rarely ever would somebody come back for you if to compliment you on things. But somehow, I think because I speak to my customers directly, so they have an idea of a person as well as a brand. They don't have the idea of interacting with a large-scale brand. They still have that personal touch in them. So they would very kindly revert with great feedback all the time. So that validation, so I live for. But now it's getting better. Now we have data points. Now we have for Instagram helps a lot. Our website helps a lot. Even something like we don't have a Shopify. We used to, but no longer we have a Shopify website. We have something on Air Menu, which is very convenient. But even something like that, like a landing page like that, gives you enough data. I mean, you have emails, you have phone numbers. So just getting back to customers is a lot easier. And very late, unfortunately, but I've realized now the importance of that. So yeah, we're working on that.
शिव, आजकल ज़्यादातर लोग क्लाउड किचन जोमेटो पे प्रोडक्ट सेल करने के लिए खोल रहे हैं एंड यू आर नॉट ऑन जोमेटो. Why is that? Like, why did you choose not to be on Zomato?
Yeah, I understand, because as a cloud kitchen, I think most people assume that your entire revenue is streamed by Zomato or Swiggy. So, I have a few business models that I run by. I'm not just a customer-centric business. That is one part of my business. I also supply to other cafes and restaurants around in Delhi NCR. So a strong portion of my revenue comes from that. So that's one. Secondly, when we started, we were tiny, right? So the Zomato, Swiggy and their huge commissions didn't work very well for us. Plus, we use expensive ingredients and all. So, we have a fair cost to them. And it's just, I don't want to work for a 10% profit margin. It doesn't make sense for me. I'll earn a little less, but I want to be at peace with what I've made. And that time when we started, it didn't make sense for us for a lot of reasons. A, the commissions were huge. And B, the kind of product that we have, it can't go with a Zomato or Swiggy rider. It just can't. It won't travel well. And 10 good reviews the work of that is completely taken away with one bad.
Yeah.
That doesn't work for me. And secondly, I don't think mine is the kind of product that can get ready in 15 minutes. So if it has to be delivered to you in 30 minutes, the rider is in my kitchen in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Or 5 minutes after you've placed the order. I can't finish my cake in 5 minutes. What kind of a shady job will I be doing if I am giving you something in 5 minutes? Or maybe I don't just like the idea of having things finished and ready in my kitchen. Like something like a sourdough or a croissant, right? That we do from Butterbum. It's a 36-hour process. And I am going to take 36 hours to do it. So I realized that I'm okay with having my audience wait for my product. This was not an easy thing. It's still not an easy thing because we don't plan as an audience and people want things immediately. I am working on that, but that's going to be a separate product line, something that's easier and something that can be done in a certain way. As a cloud kitchen, one of the things that work very well for me is that I have no wastage because we only bake on order.
Yeah.
And I'm very firm on maintaining that, right? I don't want wastage because why should I? Why should I incur that? Plan better.
Yeah.
So all my audience now is they place their orders 2 days in advance and we get your order, we make your product. And that works very well for us. Maybe in a few things, Zomato and Swiggy would work. Like I'm curating a new line of sliced layered cakes. Something like that would be great for Zomato. But my immediate products, not right now. And to be honest, it's been 5 years. We've built a very comfortable business without them. Instagram has been kind to us. All our orders come through Instagram or WhatsApp or our website. And so far it's doing well. Will Zomato and Swiggy be a good addition? I'm sure. I have no doubt about it. I'm sure it'll be a great addition to our revenue. Perhaps in the future we will have it. But for now, I'm very comfortable with the pace at which this has grown for me. So yeah, no regrets.
शिव, आपका अब तक का सबसे सक्सेसफुल ड्रॉप क्या रहा है जिससे आपको सेल्स भी ज़्यादा मिली और इंस्टाग्राम एंगेजमेंट भी?
So our products have always done well. Two things that I think helped us a lot. In general, I think in the first year of PSD, our rawness helped a lot. The fact that it was just 2 people in a small kitchen, trying their best to make good products and deliver it. And so I used to just put the camera on my working table. I used to record everything, and the camera quality was not good. The videos were not good. We did not know how to edit. It was a shady job of putting things up, but we did our best to be able to translate our story. And I cannot be more thankful to the audience that we got at that point, because it was unbelievable the response we got for our weekend boxes. Mad. And I think that was absolutely phenomenal. I think that was one thing that that did extremely well for us. The second thing conceptually that did very well for us, I think 2-3 years back, it was 5th August is I think Friendship's Day or something. Yeah. So we did a conceptual box. You know the American sitcom Friends?
Mm-hmm.
So we did something around that. So there are 6 core characters, right? So we did a dessert or a product relating to every character. So if it was Rachel, Rachel messed up the English trifle once and she put meat in it. So we did not her version, no trifle, but we did a trifle and after Rachel. Then Monica, she was all fancy and everything. So she did a birthday flan instead of a birthday cake where everybody was just so upset with her. So we had a Monica flan. Phoebe had her grandmother's cookie. So we did a Phoebe cookie. And Joey was pizza, right?
Yeah.
Joey special means 2 pizzas. So we did a pizza croissant. So, we had one product relating to all 6 members, and all of them had different personalities.
Yeah.
Your closest friends, you can always be like, hey, you're a Chandler or you're a Monica. You have those slangs going. So we made that was a conceptual drop, and we would be like, whoever your friends are, send them this from our side saying that you're their Chandler or you're their Monica or you're their, Rachel or Rosa, Phoebe or whatever, Joey. And people really took to that, We had orders coming in left, right and center, and people were like, oh, I want to send, my 5 friends, and they would send specific messages, but like, this one is my Ross. So, send them the Ross dessert and this and that. Or sometimes, you're a combination of 3-4. So send them all 6.
Okay.
People were just so excited at the idea of that. And I think that did very well for us. That's very vivid in my memory as doing extremely well, because I remember that time we weren't very great. So I was with my book, my order taking register, and I was manually taking all the orders, and it just kept filling up. And I remember after that I was like, this can't be manual anymore. This has to be automated. That did very well.
शिव, जब आपने डिसाइड किया कि नाउ वी नीड टू हैव अ टीम, अब 2 लोगों से नहीं हो सकता, सो हायरिंग के टाइम आप क्या देख रहे थे अपार्ट फ्रॉम स्किल्स इन योर टीम मेंबर्स?
I don't look at skills. Because we mostly end up hiring either freshers or people who are relatively new, perhaps a year or maximum a year and a half or 2 of experience. So skill actually is not on my priority list. Because if you're a fresher, if you've just interned or done an OJT from somewhere, then you know what's out there in the market. If you've done it from a hotel or something, I don't expect you to have skills. And that's okay with me. It's my job to teach you skills. I'll take care of that. But there are a few things that are absolutely non-negotiable for me that cannot be taught. One is they need to be disciplined. Discipline towards themselves, towards my company, towards the work I expect them to do. Extremely important. If there's discipline and proactivity, there's a certain responsibility that you have to come with at work. Agar aap responsibility nahi lete ho na at work, it's very depressing for me. I don't like such people. So if you're proactive and disciplined, tick for me. Second is you have to be a team player. I detest people who can't work around in a team and help their mates. That doesn't work for me at all. I need a good team environment. If there's one person also who's bringing it down for me, I'll take them out. I can't. So team player, very important. And the third thing is I don't like hiring people for short term. So if there's somebody who is only here for 4 months or 6 months or 8 months, that doesn't work for me. And I very honestly tell them, you know what? I can be selfish because it'll work for me. Because if I know you're only here for 6 months, I have zero interest in teaching you anything. You'll just be an extra set of hands for me. You'll be labor. Great. I have 5 interns. I'll treat you as a set of hands. No, I mean, I'm just being honest here. But if I know that you're going to stay with me, you're going to help my company grow, you're here with me for a while, then it's my responsibility to make sure that you have knowledge, you're trained. Your growth becomes my responsibility as well, because your growth directly translates to my company's growth. So I feel like anybody who's in it for the short term in any place, like pick a good place. Don't randomly go anywhere. When you're looking for a job, pick a place where you like their work, you like the people, you feel like you learn from them, but then have it in you to stick for a while, because nobody learns in 4 months. 4 months it takes for me to judge if this person is a decent one or not, for me to be able to build any trust. Somebody comes in first week, I'm not going to give them heavy stuff, right? I'm not going to tell them, hey, you do R&D with me. No way. 4 months it will take for you to understand how my kitchen works, how my team works, to get in the rhythm of things. Then I develop a certain level of trust with you. I understand how you are as a working professional, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, where you need to be pulled up. And after that, we get to a level where I directly contribute to your growth. I work with you, I teach you skills. So to get to that level, you have to stick with the company.
Yeah.
Right? And anything less than that doesn't work for me. So when I'm hiring, I tell everybody, if you're not willing to commit a certain time to the company, this is not for you.
Shiv, as an employer in F&B industry, what has been the most difficult thing for you in terms of hiring and team management?
It's different. Like, Instagram is not an accurate picture of how a kitchen works.
Yeah.
So not mostly, but a lot of times when interns come from pastry schools, they have a different idea of things. I remember one time we had an intern, and during her first week, she's like, Chef, I want to talk to you. I'm like, okay, kya ho gaya? I thought, maybe she's having some struggles or whatever. And she's like, it's been a week and I haven't glazed a single entree yet. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, go clean the rack. So I think it's a little delusional. And I wish a more accurate, realistic picture would be drawn of how kitchen is done. I think in Oberoi, I remember as a trainee, thrice a week at least, I would clean the walk-in and deep entirely. And it takes 6 hours a day. And I remember it used to be so cold. एक time पे अंदर बाहर जाने में तकलीफ होती थी. So I used to carry a jacket along in the month of May also. वो jacket और टोपी पहन के I used to sit in the deep freezer. और उसमें cleaning करती थी. Like ice break कर रहे हैं, सब कर रहे हैं. You have to do it. It's your job. Why is it not your job? So not that I'm saying that they need to do that now. I don't mean that. But I mean that you have to have a realistic expectation of what is to be done for you. Like, this is not your school anymore,
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid to teach you. You make a mistake, it costs me money. So I think that realistic picture with a few of the newer generation kids, I speak like an old person. But yeah, I think that's missing. And apart from that, I think the hiring problem is, to be honest, I think I've realized it not with the team members, but maybe with me. I realized that training them well is extremely important. Like, you can't hire somebody, have them join your company and be like, "Ye lo." You have to spend time with them. And I didn't realize that for the longest time, because I already had a team working at this point, and I had 8-10 people. And if a new person came, I'm like, "Ye lo, join the team, must team." Everyone's, there's music, there's fun stuff going around. Kya problem hai? But I think that's a little like pushing them in like Bambi, and you need to pace them in. You need to hold their hand and tell them, hey, this is the company, this is what we do, this is your training, and you have to spend a little time with them, get them a little more comfortable. You cannot afford to not have them trained. So I think now I realize that took a little while. So I think as long as you train your team well and you set expectations and you tell them very honestly, like most of the times if I don't know something, I tell my team, I don't know this, man. Let's figure it out together. So we'll either read a book together, we'll watch a class together, and be like, So my team has no illusions about me knowing everything. They know that if she doesn't know, she'll say she has no idea, and we'll figure it out together. I think that training process and transparency is very important with the team, at least for a closer team like ours. Like, it's not a big operation, right? I have 20 people right now. So that's a close enough team. They have interactions with me all the time. So I think that personal touch is very important.
Yeah. शिव, आपके ओपिनियन में ज़्यादा डिफिकल्ट चीज़ क्या होती है, एक हाई सेलिंग प्रोडक्ट बनाना या फिर अपने ऑपरेशंस को स्केल करना?
Operations any day. Any day. Yeah, making a product is not difficult. It takes me 2 days to make it. But what happens after you've made the good product is a different story entirely. And this is something that has taken a long while and a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of experience for me to gather. But making a product is, I mean, maybe I say it because I am from this background, because I've spent years doing this. Maybe somebody from a big business background would have another view at it. But for me personally, making a product is not an issue. It's the easier part of the job. Setting standards, SOPs, maintaining it and pushing it out to the public successfully, that's the battle.
Yeah. शिव, जो भी लोग ये पॉडकास्ट देखने के बाद क्लाउड किचन खोलने का सोच रहे हैं, आपकी उनके लिए क्या एडवाइस रहेगी?
I think it would be the same, yeah. I mean, just start as small as possible and be open to change. Don't be rigid. If in 3 months you've realized your product is not working, be open to change. Be open to understanding this is not working and that is not working. Take from the audience. The audience gives you feedback all the time. Even if they don't give you feedback verbally, there's feedback if the person is not coming back. That's feedback, right? Don't overspend initially. I think I promise you the amount of things you need, you don't need them. Be frugal, try to understand and just have a very realistic idea of what you're getting into. This is not the cash cow that you think it is. If you think 3rd month you'll be rolling in money, no. It's gonna take time. So many times people are like, hey, my first cloud kitchen next month, 5 more in the next 3 months. By year end, we'll have 5 outlets. And I'm like, whoa. Unless you're extremely heavily funded, I don't see that happening. So just have a realistic picture. Study the finance before getting into it. A lot of people think that, food business is a very cash heavy, fun business because you're paid upfront and everything. Study the finance of it. Study what the math looks like. Study what the profit margins are. Study what the labor cost, what the ingredient cost and everything should be, because that's extremely important. Because you need to realize what you're working towards, and you can't just be passionate and get into it. Passion fades.
Okay.
Comes and goes. You can't build a business just because you're passionate about something. There's a lot more that goes into it. It's very important to understand the finance behind it, because you have to see if you're willing to work for that or not. If I'm going for something extremely premium, I need to charge that much, otherwise my profit margins are thin. So to be able to make that translation on paper is very important. Understand where your money is going to come and go from. Study the business models. Just because you know of Zomato and Swiggy doesn't mean that's your only way to make money. Multiple ways to make money in the cloud kitchen. You can negotiate with Zomato, Swiggy. If they tell you 27%, don't just say, haan, theek hai. Negotiate with them. Even as a newbie, you can negotiate.
Yeah.
Go for it. You don't just have to agree with what anybody says. Realize what your money-making channels can be. It's not necessarily the only way to go about it, where you have your customers coming through Zomato or whatever, Swiggy. You can serve to other cafes and restaurants. That's B2B. Very strong. You can be catering, you can be doing events, you can be doing a lot of things that actually make a lot more money. You can be into gifting and all that. So this is one part of the money making. Figure out your sales channels. This should not be your only way of making money. You'll struggle a lot. So make sure you have at least 3 income streams that you think of before you get into it. Speak to the people that you would like to do this with. If you think you have a product and you can sell it to cafes, speak to at least 10 cafes and understand if they're even willing to take it or not, because their price points are going to be different. Their purchasing is going to be different. So understand all of that very well. For Cloud Kitchens, what else? Hiring is important. Irrespective of the product, hire a small team, but hire a sharp team, especially when you're starting. When you're starting, you need enthusiastic, well-developed individuals. You cannot have lousy people around you when you're starting. You need people who are proactive. You need people who are willing to align with your company and give it their all. If you don't have that team, don't take a second to chuck them out. Find proactive people, especially when you're starting. You need that push. Your company needs that launch push. And it doesn't just come from you. It comes from having a good team around you. So don't be shy of hiring. Hire well, hire small, but hire extremely well.
Shiv, what are your future plans with Project Sweet Dish?
So we kind of, as a company and as an individual, I'm always open to change. Okay. And I'm very quick to fall back and reassess things. And that's both a plus and a minus for me. But due to that, we kind of changed a few things last year. We launched a sister brand called Butterbum, which now essentially deals with baked products, which would be your croissants and sourdoughs and everything else. So PSD essentially does 2 product lines for now, which is ice creams and desserts. Ice creams is relatively new because it's been a year since we started it. And did not expect it to do as well as it did, to be honest. Absolutely did not expect the kind of response that we got, because it started as a, let's see if it works kind of a thing. We hoped it would work. Ekdam hi let's see nahi tha. We had some proof of concept behind it, but it was also a bit of a risk because the kind of flavors we do, they're not regular flavors. They trip you up, like our flavors would be, let's say, something like malt and cointreau and hazelnut. You don't hear that for ice cream. We don't do a chocolate ice cream or a vanilla or a strawberry or whatever. So our flavors we have a small menu, maybe 6 ice creams we have, 5 ice creams we have, but they're all extremely, extremely different from what you can find out there. They're all there are multiple components in it. There's flavor profiles mixing. There's a lot happening. In one tub, you can have a gelato and a sorbet together. You can have brioche inside and ice cream. So we're doing a lot of different things with ice cream. So I thought it would have more of a learning curve. But thankfully, as a brand, we had already developed a very experimental position and image with the audience. So when we launched ice creams, they were very forthcoming. They were like, yeah, we expect KM, PSD, say very nice. So our ice creams took up extremely well with the audience, even without any promotion, to be honest. So I would really like to pursue that heavily. So I am working on that. Maybe a nice, quaint ice cream bar in the city somewhere soon. And yeah, so that's that. I've kind of last month, I've been thinking of changing PSD's position a little with the kind of product lines they do. But let's see, I'm not going to say much because then if I don't end up doing it, then I'll look silly. So maybe in a month or 2, if you see some changes in menu, you'll know that this is what I'm talking about. And if you don't see them, well, then I guess I didn't go through with it. But because the pastry scene for not only the country but for Delhi has changed a lot in 5 years. So when it gets a little more common, I lose interest.
Yeah.
So I am looking at doing a few different things with PSD. I have no qualms about it. I'm very easy. If I'm convinced about something, I'll drop and I'll change immediately. So let's see if that happens. I'll take about a 2-3 month window to figure that out. But I'm looking forward to it. It'll be experimental. But so far, the desserts and ice creams are good. Ice cream is going to be a heavy focus for us going forward,
Okay.
for sure. So yeah, if you have a nice place where I can open an ice cream bar where the rents don't kill me, let me know.
Okay. So Chef, for ending up the podcast, we have a new segment for the season. आपको हमारे next guest से एक question पूछना है. She will be from the F&B industry. Anything that you have in mind, or you wanted to ask someone from the F&B industry, you can ask us.
Do I know who is gonna be? No, it's random. All right.
Okay.
That's okay. I don't have to know. It's fine.
Okay.
It's fun that way. Okay, assuming that your next guest is a food entrepreneur, has their own venture running. If you had to leave your venture and work for somebody for 10 years straight, a business or a chef, who would you work for?
Okay. All right.
That's my question.
That's a good question. Thank you so much, Chef, for joining us today. And I loved the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It was not an ordinary podcast. Learned so much from you.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best for PSD.
Thank you for inviting me, and all the best with your school. It looks brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you, Chef.